Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I cover oily skin, hooded eyes, and beauty. Welcome to the Primer Wars finale. To catch you guys up, I reviewed 10 drugstore primers for your oily skin. If you missed the entire series, I will link them down below for you. I tested these primers out using my favorite liquid foundation from the drugstore, and it's the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless, and then my favorite loose powder foundation, which is the L'Oreal True Match Loose Powder. I did an all-day wear test and I tested out the touch-up process because with oily skin, it can be just a little bit tricky. So I rated these primers 1 through 10, and of course 1 being the best and 10 being the worst, and I have my reasons why. So if you're familiar with the entire Primer Wars series, go ahead and pause this video. Let me know down in the comments below what do you think is the best and what do you think is the worst. Okay, so now that you wrote down your answers, which I'm gonna be reading them, so make sure you go ahead and do that, I'm gonna go ahead and start with number 10. So number 10 is going to be the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop Matte Primer. So I was really excited to try this primer out because I absolutely love that foundation. It is so beautiful, but this primer really disappointed me. It made my skin super stiff and really dry. It kind of felt like I put glue all over my face and just let it sit there and let it dry. The formula is so thick that I couldn't really blend out the product at all. There were just smear marks, and you can see the smear marks through my foundation, and because it was just so thick, my skin wasn't able to absorb the product at all. And so it was just like sitting on top of my skin, and then the foundation sitting on top, and then the powder, like nothing could really emulsify together to make it look flawless. It was just terrible. And it didn't work with my loose powder foundation. I couldn't really do anything with the touch-up process. I was able to soak up my oils, but I couldn't really move anything around because of the primer. It's a terrible product. I don't recommend it. Primer number 9, e.l.f. Blemish Control Face Primer. So I'm not gonna lie, when I tried this out, I thought that this was gonna be number 10, the bottom, until I used the NYX one. So this one was horrible. With this primer, I couldn't really get too far with it. The more I tried to blend it out, the more the primer would ball up and just kind of flake off. So it did leave my foundation, my makeup looking pretty patchy because there were some parts that did stick to my face, like some of the primer did stick to my face, and that's where my foundation would stick. And it just didn't really look good. It didn't fill in my pores at all. It didn't fill in my fine lines. It didn't work with my loose powder foundation. The one thing that I can say it was good at was controlling my oils, but that was it. I don't recommend this one at all. Primer number 8, LA Girl Pro Prep HD Smoothing Face Primer. So this primer did not fill in my pores or my fine lines, didn't cover blemishes, and also it accentuated my dry spots because now that it's winter time, I do have some dryness like on the nose area and just kind of right here in between my lip and my chin, and it really accentuated it. Every time I looked in the mirror, all I could see were my pores. They were just super like magnified. It didn't control my oils. The touch-up process was okay. And it did work with my loose powder foundation, but unfortunately everything else was just horrible. I don't recommend this one. I feel like when it says LA Girl, it's meant for like young girls who don't have large pores or fine lines, because it just did nothing for my skin. It did nothing for my makeup. I don't find this useful at all. Primer number 7. Milani Prime Shield Face Primer. So this primer left like an oily residue on my skin, and my skin couldn't really absorb it. So because it is also a silicone primer, my foundation just kind of was slipping and sliding and made my makeup really patchy, but it did control my oils, so that was a good thing. And the touch-up process was pretty easy. I was able to like move things back into place. I just had to be really careful not to make my makeup slip and slide even more. And it did work with my loose powder foundation. So that was pretty good. I think you just have to learn how to work with it. I think you just need to make sure that you're not so heavy-handed whenever you are putting on your foundation and baking and then wiping off your bake. I think you just have to have a really light hand when doing all of that, and then it'll work for you. Primer number 6, L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Base Face Primer. So this primer instantly mattified and just smoothed out my skin. My pores, my fine lines were instantly filled, and it looked like a dream. The only problem is that it's a silicone primer, so my foundation did kind of slip and slide, but it controlled all my oils all day. The touch-up process was pretty good. I was able to move everything back into place. Like I said, it controlled my oils, so not much had to be removed. And it didn't work with my loose powder foundation, but that's okay. I kind of think that if these primers do work with my loose powder foundation, it's almost kind of like a bonus. This one didn't, so unfortunately. So I think this primer's okay. I just think you need to be very light-handed and just be very careful because it is a silicone primer. You don't want anything slipping and sliding, so just be very, very careful. Foundation number 5, the Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. So this primer was super highly rated, and I was so excited because I heard so many good things about it, but it left like an oily film on my skin, but it was mattifying, which is the weird thing. So the only way that I could get this primer to work for my makeup was to put translucent powder on top of the primer and then put on my foundation. Because if I didn't, my foundation would just slip and slide, and it was patchy and it would come off, like it would like transfer. So whenever I used the translucent powder, it didn't do that. It just stayed on, blurred out my pores, my fine lines, my wrinkles. It didn't let my foundation last all day. It controlled my oils, which was amazing, and the touch-up process was flawless. The primer does not work with loose powder foundation, but that's okay. So I think the primer is pretty good if you follow those steps. Primer, translucent powder, foundation, and then the rest of your steps. And if you're not going to be out all day, I think it is a good primer. Primer number 4, Revlon PhotoReady Pore Reducing Primer. So I was really, really impressed with this primer. It made my skin so soft, so smooth, and it blurred out my pores, my fine lines, all of my blemishes. It was kind of like a blank canvas, like putting makeup on a blank canvas, and it created a really nice, smooth base for my makeup. It really controlled my oils all day. The touch-up process was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Everything went back into place. The only thing is that it didn't work with my loose powder foundation. Other than that, this primer is perfect, and you can wear it on its own because it really just blurs out everything, absolutely everything. And you don't actually see the primer on your skin because your skin really just soaks it up and really blurs out everything. So I do recommend using that. If you're not wanting to wear makeup one day, you're out running errands or doing whatever, you can just wear this on its own and it looks great. For these next 3 primers, it was really difficult to determine the ranking because I feel like they are all so beautiful. I really had to go back and watch all of the videos and read all of my notes again to determine which one is better than the other. I had to go down a list and say, okay, what is missing from this one? What makes this one better than this one? And I just really had to do like pros and cons because they are all 3 just so beautiful. But I finally got it down. I was able to determine what's gonna be number 1, number 2, number 3. So here we go. Like I said, this was super tough. So here's number 3, the Rimmel Stay Matte Mattifying Makeup Primer. So with this primer, it felt like I was putting on a moisturizing lotion. And with oily skin, you're not used to using anything moisturizing, but this moisturized, but it mattified my skin, which was weird because I've never experienced anything like that before in a primer. So this primer blurred out my pores and it created just a smooth canvas for my makeup application. It was so beautiful. Also, it works great with loose powder foundation. So the only thing with this primer was that it creased my makeup. I'm used to creasing, it's fine, but this one happened way early on in the game. I mean, I had it on for maybe an hour and then creases as if I had already had this foundation on for like 8 hours. Other than that, it controlled my oils all day. Like, you couldn't even believe it. Moisturized my skin, but it held onto my oils. It did not let them through, which is crazy. So the touch-up process was perfect. Just move that back into place and then you're good. It was just weird that I experienced the creasing so early on. That's it. But this primer is so good. Primer number 2. Number 7, Airbrush Away Primer. I was blown away with this primer. I had a really hard time with ranking this one. I was thinking that this was going to be number 1, like this was going to be the primer. So this primer smells amazing. It's so good. And just like the other one, it felt like I was putting on lotion. It was super moisturizing, but also mattifying at the same time. It controlled my oils all day long, and it worked with my loose powder foundation. The touch-up process was perfect. There was just one thing. It didn't cover my pores as much as I would like them to, but if you don't have large pores like I do, you should be fine, but mine are ginormous. So I really do have to work hard at kind of covering them up. But that was the only thing that made it number 2 on the list, is that it didn't really do much for my pores. But other than that, this primer is so good. And now for primer number 1, L'Oreal Infallible Matte Lock Mattifying Primer. So this primer, it's magic in a tube. Like, seriously, magic in a tube. It does everything you want it to. It is super moisturizing, but mattifying. It fills in your pores, your fine lines. It totally cancels out your blemishes. It literally is making your face a blank canvas for makeup. And it really just kind of smooths everything out. And just putting on makeup is just like nothing you've ever experienced. It just smooths everything out. It just feels so amazing. And it controls your oils all day long. There is literally no creasing, no slipping, no sliding, no patchiness. It really makes your makeup stay on all day long. Also, the touch-up process, really, I feel like there is no need for a touch-up process, but I do it anyway just because sometimes there can be the slipping and sliding, so I just wanted to make sure that that wouldn't happen, and it didn't. It was just absolutely perfect. It is literally a gift from the makeup gods as far as being the perfect primer for loose powder foundation. Oh my God, it made my loose powder foundation look so glowy and just so beautiful. I mean, it looked natural. It didn't make my loose powder look all mattified or anything like that. Like, everything emulsified beautifully. Like, it gave me this beautiful radiance, and it did that all day, and it just looked so beautiful. I cannot rave anymore about this primer. I mean, I recommend this. So all of the primers that I ranked 1 through 6, I highly recommend. And then the rest, not so much. So I had so much fun during this primer wars. I had so much fun because I got to learn so much about these primers and then let you guys know what I learned, so that way you can find out what's best for you, what's not the best for you. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope that you got value out of this video. Please let me know if you like this video. Tell me, what primers do you like? What primers do you not like? What primers do you want me to try out? Please let me know, and if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more content because I have so much more to give you.